Now, coming up, I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. We meet the new female council leaders in the Midlands to talk power politics and whether gender really matters. Now, a development which could have a huge influence on West Bromwich is under construction. It's a shopping centre which should provide 2,000 jobs. It's a major part of the town's regeneration, planned and financed before the recession and the rapid decline of many retail areas across the region. Well, a year ago, Wolverhampton became a porter's town, winning £100,000 to try and halt the spread of empty shops. Giles Latcham's been to see what's changed.
This is the latest stage in Wolverhampton's ongoing plan to revive its city centre. Businesses are being given empty shop units, rent-free for 6 months, for those entrepreneurs willing to take the risk.
I wanted to do this about 20 years ago, but the costs involved were just too great. It scares a lot of people off. And when this competition came up, I very nearly didn't enter it. So I thought it would just be a lot of red tape and a lot of work, but I'm glad I did.
This project's a partnership between the Manda Centre and the local authority, but trying to reverse the effects of one of the biggest recessions in living memory, tackling the relentless march of online shopping. Well, that's a tall order for any city council.
In Stoke, they're taking an even bolder step. The council's spending £45 million, moving its headquarters out of Stoke to Hanley, in the hope that other companies will follow, and by bringing employment, help rejuvenate the city centre. Traders who will be left behind, though, say it's a disaster.
We're literally thinking about closing the business down because it just isn't viable.
Nothing is invested in Stoke at all. Everything goes to Hanley.
We're all just hanging on now. We can see what's going to happen.
1 in 5 shops in Stoke is empty. It's around 1 in 4 in Wolverhampton, though projects to put the heart back into the city centre are having an effect. But with a recent study predicting 20% of shops could close in the next 5 years, it seems the fight back is only just beginning.
Giles Latcham reporting. Also joining us this week, another prospective parliamentary candidate, Christine Tinker. She'll be standing for the Liberal Democrats in Shrewsbury and Atcham, where she'd need to overturn a majority of almost 8,000 to win the seat from the Conservatives. But the Lib Dems did come in second in the last election. So, Christine, do you think we just actually need to accept that high streets will never be the same that they were, and we just need to find a different model for them?
I think so, because times have changed, and particularly in recession, it's harder to make anything work. So I think all the plans with Mary Porter's and the town teams and the bid, you know what
the money that's available, yes.
That it's good to have these schemes to try and regenerate the town centres. I think we might have to accept that the town centres have got to get smaller. But very active and with really good shops for everybody, covering lots of different needs.
But really, how viable is this? I mean, the statistics are quite frightening. Predictions: 1 in 5 shops could close in the next 5 years. Is there actually any point in trying to halt that, or should we look at high streets differently, maybe trying to turn commercial premises back into residential?
I think you have to do a mixture. In Shrewsbury, there are a lot of small independent shops that have formed together to make quite a strong group, working to make sure that they stay viable. That seems to be working. In other places, of course, they don't have that option. But, yes, you have to look to see if residential, partly, is a good thing, because that in itself would regenerate footfall in the town centre, particularly if you put in a couple of late-night opening shops, for example, like Waitrose or any of the top
or
supermarkets.
Any of the other supermarkets
yes.
that are available. Kate, you've got experience in the construction industry. That shopping development in West Bromwich that we saw in that report, is that one of a dying breed? Are we likely to see that kind of thing again?
It probably will be one of the last. It's quite an interesting one, actually, because my understanding is that it was Tesco's that sponsored the planning application, and they are the core retail unit there. That's quite unusual. Normally, these are more kind of investment projects, and what that points to is the kind of lack of project finance. There are structural changes. The high street is not going to go back to what it was. The internet is not going to disappear. But then, against that, there are things that we can do in terms of as you said, moving towards residential. But the key problem here is the economy. You know, people don't want to spend money because we've got 1 million people who've been out of work long term. We've got 1 million young people out of work. It's very difficult to justify discretionary spending at the moment. And what will happen if we can fix the economy is we will see some slight return of confidence. Now, that's not going to happen unless we fundamentally change the employment situation.
I think one of the key things that we haven't quite mentioned yet is the nature of who goes to high streets, because I think footfall is really important. And if we look at the demographic changes that our country is going through, we're going to see a lot more people over the age of 60 who go to the high street, not only to buy commodities that they want, but also because they want to socialise, they want to access other types of services, particularly health services. And I think these are the kind of changes we're going to see across high streets all over the country.
So it is about using the space differently?
Well, I think this evolution is natural. I mean, you know, no longer do we have horses and carts going down the high street. You know, so I think the change is something to be embraced. Business entrepreneurs, I'm sure, are embracing that change. It's just taking perhaps slightly longer than we would have liked because there are other models still available. But saving the high street, I think, it preserves something of that. I mean, certainly here in England, that English character of what it means to have a small town.
It does, but this was a fundamentally quite a gimmicky approach to take. I mean, throwing £10,000 at a limited number of small town centres wasn't going to make much of a difference.
It was £100,000 for Wolverhampton.
It was 100,000. And you may say it's gimmicky, but the chap who just said, you know, 20 years ago we should have done this on the report. You know, people like that, they have this dream of having a business, and to give them 6 months interest, 6 months rent-free space to say, come and build a business, start off, you know, don't have this immediate overheads of huge rent to pay, and build it up, and as you're comfortable, then you will start paying the rent. I think
it's very difficult to give people free space long term. I agree. I'm totally.
But the 6-month window is a very welcome window, and I think
it's a
lots of small. It's a brilliant start.
It's a start.
But it won't change anything until there's money back in the economy.